Welcome to Audible Stories. The Hunchback. Once upon a time, in a castle on the banks of a river, there lived a hunchback. He was fabulously wealthy, but his heart was hideous, and he was an angry, spiteful man. One day the hunchback fell in love with the daughter of a poor peasant, and he decided he would marry her. Because he was so wealthy and powerful, he had his way. When he had married the girl, he took her to live in his castle, and from that moment on, he was consumed with jealousy. He kept her to himself, and he never let her see another soul. He allowed no one to enter the castle, and he let his wife go out only when he accompanied her. So the months passed, and the girl grew more and more unhappy with her plight. It seemed that nothing would save her. One day 3 musicians came to the castle. The 3 men were hunchbacks too, but they had not allowed their deformity to sour their cheerful natures. "Hello, friend," they said. "We've come to play for you, but we would welcome some refreshment, please." Amazingly, the hunchback let the men into his home, for he did not worry that his wife would be attracted to any of them. He stayed till, when they had finished eating, he sent them away. The 3 musicians set off down the road. When they were gone, the master went to town on business. The poor lonely wife waited until her husband was out of sight, and then she opened her window and called to the musicians who sat daydreaming upon the riverbank. "Please come back," she cried. "I would love to hear some more music today." The musicians, feeling sorry for the poor lady, returned to the castle. She offered them wine, and they began to play and sing. After playing several merry songs, they stopped to drink, and suddenly, they all heard footsteps approaching the back door. "Oh no, it is my husband," the lady cried. "Quick, follow me," and she led the 3 men upstairs to a room where, luckily for her, 3 empty coffins stood. "Climb into these and hide," she instructed the men. And then she went downstairs and greeted her husband. "Have you come to spy?" she asked him when he stormed through the door. "Well, as usual I'm alone," she said. "You're certain?" he asked, sniffing the air. And he began to search, but his wife steered him to clear of the room with the coffins. After he had searched a while, he again set off for town. "I shall return shortly," he said. Now the lady ran to release the musicians from the coffins. To her dismay, she discovered they had fallen asleep, so deep asleep that she couldn't wake them. Now what would she do? She had to find some way to get rid of them before her husband returned. So she looked out the window and saw a peasant lad passing by, and she had a sudden flash of inspiration. "Please come up here," she called to the boy. "I have a reward for you if you will help me." The peasant lad came to the door, and the lady pointed to the first coffin. "Inside there is a body. Please take him to the river and toss him in," she said, "and I will pay you 1,000 gold coins." "Sure I will for you, dear lady," the lad said, and he asked for a sack. He put the sleeping body of the first musicians in it, walked to the river, and pitched the body into the water. He returned to claim his reward. The cold water shocked the first musician awake, and he swam to the riverbank and ran away as fast as he could, confused and terrified by this action. Back at the castle, the lady met the lad at the head of the stairs. "I would reward you," she said, "but look here. You've not done what you said you would," and she showed him the coffin. She had moved the sleeping second musician into the first coffin by then, and the lad scratched his head. "Oh my," he said, "well, here I go then." Once again he placed the sleeping body in the empty sack, and once again he walked to the river and tossed the body from the sack into the water. He returned to the castle to claim his reward. Of course, the second musician reacted as the first one had, and he swam to the riverbank and took off into the woods. By the time the lad reached the castle, the lady had moved the third musician into the first empty coffin. Once again she took the boy to task when he asked for his reward. "I don't understand," he said. "I tossed him in. He's a great wizard," the lady said, "so you must be sure he is truly in the river." And so, summoning his strength, the lad lifted the third musician from the first coffin, placed him in the sack and set off for the river again. This time he tied a stone to the body. "You will sink for the last time, you wizard," and he threw the body into the water. Then he turned back toward the castle. The third musician found himself sinking to the bottom with the weight of the stone, but he freed himself, swam to the bank, and stumbled into the woods, trembling with fear. As the lad was walking back to the castle, he saw the hunchbacked master returning from his journey to home. "What's this?" cried the lad. He had enough of the hunchback's tricks. He jumped upon the man and, using all his strength, stuffed him into his sack, dragged the sack back to the river, tied a few big rocks to the sack and dumped the whole thing into the river. He waited until it touched bottom, and then, sweating and out of breath, he ran back to the castle once more. "I dare you've not seen him again, have you?" he asked the lady. "No, I have not," said the lady. "He is good and gone forever." For she had seen him stuffing her husband at the last time. "Ah, thank heavens," the boy said. "He was nearly at your door, returned from the river, but I stopped him once and for all." Now the wife knew her plan had worked, and she paid the peasant handsomely. When the boy was gone, she locked the castle door and returned to her father's home. Everyone always wondered what had happened to the hunchback, but nobody missed him, and the lady stayed forever with her parents in happiness and peace. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening.